Teachers of Reddit, what student will you never forget? My second year teaching, I had a student who came in late on the first day of school. His parents had registered him that morning. He came in shy and embarrassed, but no problem, we stopped what we were doing. I grabbed a desk and a name tag and asked him what his name was. He didn't know his last name. This should have been a red flag, but I chalked it up to the fact that he was a second grader thrown into a scary situation. I let it be. The more I worked with him, the more I knew something was going on. He was a native English speaker, English was his only language, and there were a lot of words he didn't know. He'd ask to take off his feet, shoes, he'd speak like Yoda, he never really learned how to spell or even recognize his name, he had motor skills problems, and he just generally had a lot of gaps in his knowledge, he couldn't count forwards or backwards. I recommended him for testing, but, due to policy, I needed to try a few rounds of different interventions first. There was another student in the class who he called his cousin. This other student said, "Oh, we're not actually cousins, our dads are friends and my grandma helps out his family with food in a house and things." Fair enough. I got an alert one day that his paperwork was finally filled out, so I looked into his file, and that kid was right. The students weren't cousins. They were half-brothers, but they didn't know. The guy this kid was calling uncle was actually his father. Everyone knew, and they thought it would be best to just lie to him about his real father. They also faked bank statements and bills to give a fake address so they could enroll in the school, despite the school having open enrollment, where you can attend the school without living in the school district. I realized this kid was not dealt an easy hand. Then his mom had a meltdown and went to an inpatient facility. I was working my ass off with this kid academically, but my goal now was to be sure he felt happy and loved. His family continued to be weird. We knew they were low income, and the school reached out at them at the holiday time to see if they'd like to anonymously benefit from the holiday toy drive. They ignored every call and email, and eventually the counselor just dropped off the gifts. They sat unopened in the garage for months. At the end of the year, we got him tested. His IQ was 69. 70 is the baseline for legal mental retardation. Around this time, his mom found out she was pregnant again, number 4, at age 27. She went back to the inpatient facility. I ended up moving after that year. I always think about this kid, hoping that he's getting the help he needs to succeed and live his best life. I was a young teacher then, and I don't think I'll ever forget about him. Teaching ESL in Taiwan, I joked with a young student and told him I was hungry. Not knowing I speak Chinese, he responded with "Chi de bian," which translates to "eat crap." And what did you say back to him? "I eat pieces of crap like you for breakfast." You eat pieces of crap for breakfast? I was getting my middle school certification in my state. This was maybe 3 to 4 years ago, and my college would place us in local schools in the area to partner with an accomplished teacher and get our observation hours in. The college had a reputation of putting male teacher candidates in the roughest schools in the area. Me and my fellow male students had a theory about this, but of course we couldn't prove it. Anyway, my first morning there, in a very rough all-boys middle school in the worst part of the city, first period, a little boy maybe 10 to 11 walks into class, looks at me and says, "What are you looking at? You Ryan Gosling looking mother effer?" I was utterly speechless, lol. I can only assume that was his catch-all term for white men, lol. I'll definitely never forget him. Ha ha ha. Or maybe you're just a Ryan Gosling looking mother effer. Lol, I'm skinny as a rail, covered in tattoos, and have a beard the size of a small child on my face. No Gosling looking dude here. Laughing out loud. I teach at a prison. The first inmate I had graduate under my teaching cried when he looked at his diploma. He was the first in his entire family to graduate. It was quite the accomplishment and I was much moved. Edit. Thanks for all the awards. I taught GED classes in a local prison to the men's SAP program. These weren't violent offenders, they were just addicts that got caught up. Totally the most rewarding position I have ever had in education. Seeing those men get their GED was incredible. One old man, he was a carny that traveled the US his entire adult life, never made it past 8th grade, got his GED right before the virus shut everything down. He came and found me in my classroom and hugged me like a brother and thanked me. I still remember his full name, He made that much of an impression on me. He was due to get released a few weeks later. I really hope he's doing well. I worked at a community college as a tutor and helped a lot of adults. It was really rewarding seeing one of my tutoring students go from the point where they struggled to write a complete paragraph, trying to finish their GED, and then 4 years later they are asking me to help read over their application to a master's program. Thank you for teaching those who need it the most. Knowledge can set your spirit free. Yes, they may have committed crimes, but everyone deserves education. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. William Butler Yeats. A wonderful young man who was killed in a car accident back in early June 2020. He was in his grade 11 year. Took him under my wing in grade 9. Worked on his impulsive behavior, colorful language, anger management and questionable life choices. By grade 10, he was a mentor to incoming grade 9s that had similar issues as himself. In grade 11, he was a leader here in the school, volunteering, joined the arts community and held down 2 after-school jobs. We shook hands every day. He'd bring me coffee. His last text to me said, "Life is beautiful, man," and he had recently told me that he wished that I was his dad. He wasn't wearing a seatbelt coming home from one of those jobs. He was killed instantly after being ejected from a car he was a passenger in. My commute to and from work every day passes by the exact spot he was killed. Miss you, Edward. Out of all the posts I read on this Ask Reddit, this one hits home because it's so real and actually made me tear up. Big Mike. I'm a HS science teacher in an affluent suburb. We get this transfer kid in who is about 6'8", 350, long thin Hulk Hogan mullet, not bald though, and big glasses. Mike hailed from the hollers of Kentucky, thick southern accent, and was the most quotable kid I ever met. "I hate books, mister, they piss me off. My grandma made me sleep on the porch because she cooked some veggies and I told her, dang it woman, where's the meat? I ain't never seen a pencil like this. Can I keep this and show my dad?" Talking about a regular mechanical pencil, they threw me out of Golden Corral because I ate 8 of them steaks they had. I was pissed. Next time I'm trying for 9. And we were supposed to have a fire drill at like 1:55 or some odd time. At 1:57 he went ahead and pulled it, honest to God, thinking he would help out whoever forgot. Last one killed me. Legit one of my favorite students ever. Kid was a C.D. student, but damn if he wasn't the funniest kid to have in class. I'll never forget another science teacher the next year running into my room to tell me he said it. "I thought you were embellishing, but Big Mike told me he hates books and they piss him off." Lol. I really need more Big Mike quotes in my life. I mean, in case of a real fire you should pull the alarm, so it makes some amount of sense to practice it during a drill. I too eat at least 8 steaks before being thrown out of Golden Corral. You've been here 4 hours, there's no more food. You go get that 9th steak, Big Mike. I read all of these in Hank Hill's voice after seeing Dang It Woman, Where's the Meat? I had a kid, 16, total addict. Alcoholic, meth, pills, heroin. Really rough childhood. Started smoking crack with his dad at 13, stepdad committed suicide in front of him at 14, unimaginable crap in between. He'd come to school high or drunk and we would send him home. Nice kid, always respectful and just had a good soul. One day he was all sorts of messed up and I pulled him out of class. I told him that I loved him and I was worried, and if he kept this up he would more than likely be dead by 30. He freaked out and ran to the principal's office and complained that I had just told him that I loved him and cared about him. Principal said, "Well, maybe he loves you and cares about you." We kicked him out of school after we had 2. He got sober. He came back to track me down. He grabbed me and started sobbing. He said when I said I loved him it was the first time an adult had said that to him and he believed it. He has stayed sober for years, went to college, and is doing really well as a nurse now. You saved that kid's life. Enough to make a grown man cry. And that's okay. This is beautiful. Both you and the principal are incredible people. r/unexpectedly wholesome, Reddit link. Dance instructor. Student had one hemisphere of her brain removed as an infant and she was paralyzed on one side. She said that she wanted to dance because she wanted people to see that she wasn't ashamed of her body. After months and months, she finally managed one spin around. The other instructor cried, I cried, she cried. It was effing incredible. I don't know why, but it seems dance instructors have been some of the most supportive people I've ever met as a disabled student. Audition for Color Guard as a visually impaired sophomore, where the judges were the rifle coach, the director, and the dance coaches. One worked with a school drill team, the other was the director's roommate, and the director at another campus. I wrote a letter stapled to my audition form explaining that I was going to do my best, but I may not be as good as the other kids. The rifle coach told me I would never do rifle, the head director was doubtful, but the dance coaches told me yes. I barely made the team. I did dance line my first year as I learned to spin a flag with limited visual cues, even adapting my pole to make learning easier. The dance coaches helped me a lot, giving me confidence when the other sections doubted me, working one-on-one with me, and guiding me to befriend one of the best dancers on the team to help me. By the end of my second season, I auditioned for the Boston Crusaders, one of the best color guards in drum corps, and the whole country. While I didn't make the corps, they did commend my skill. I'm now finishing out my third year, as an officer, teaching the younger kids that they can do it no matter their limitations. I'm now learning rifle from the same coach who told me I could never do it. Just because some dance coaches has a little confidence in me. One of my students told me as a child she wanted to grow up to be a strawberry and then cried when she realized she couldn't because she was a human being. Very sweet girl. A good mate of mine had the following interaction with his daughter while I was chilling in his house. Daughter, when I grow up, can I marry a boy? Dad, yep, when you're old enough. Daughter, can I marry a girl? Dad, yep, when you're old enough. Daughter, can I marry Soup? Dad, no. Daughter runs off crying. My mate just looks at me and says in utter confusion she doesn't even like Soup. Wow, your mate is a jerk. Some people are gender fluid. She wasn't though, it was Chunky Soup. I have a patient who is a different animal or fruit every day of the week, and depending on what that is determines how difficult he is going to be today. Blueberry days are good days. What are rhubarb days like? Rhubarb is neither a fruit nor an animal. I'm fun at COVID parties. Adorable. I assume it's kindergarten? Preschool? No. She was 27. Very, very sweet girl. FTFY. You're a real peach. I shot my wife. Your wife? I never liked the idea of telling children they can't be bears or helicopters or strawberries when they grow up. We should tell them we don't know how to turn a human into those things, so if they want to do it, they need to use science to figure out how. Spawn a generation with good work ethic and potential supervillains, you know? A good crop of potential supervillains is the key to a good crop of plucky underdog heroes. Also, working as a minion is surprisingly well paid, and tends to be fulfilling work. Though your last day on the job does kind of tend to suck. The one who told me, you really make me think. We are friends to this day and have the best conversations. It's the highest compliment for a teacher. I remember when I got A, your class is fun because you teach us how to think. The kids were talking about all of their classes and it was sort of a throwaway comment, because they were talking mostly about the classes that frustrated them. It was 11th grade IB. It was the nicest compliment, even though he didn't mean it as one. In 9th grade, I hated history class and really didn't want to study it too hard. It was boring to me, and difficult. I had the option to take regular history or join the AP class, and I remember being on the fence about it, but because I knew the teacher who taught AP US history, I decided to give it a try. In his class he often taught us that history isn't about memorizing dates and names and events. It's learning how to make connections. He helped me see that what happened in the past wasn't done and over but very much still alive and connected to what's going on in the world today, even if we struggle to see it that way. We can't predict what's going to happen based on history, but we can use it to inform our decisions today in an effort to influence what may happen tomorrow. I managed to get a 4 out of 5 on my push exam and 5 out of 5 on the Euro exam only because my teacher made history something I wanted to learn about. What students get out of IB depends a lot on the teacher. My favorite teachers always makes me think. I once told my math teacher, "I'm feeling good about my grades, but your class is actually hard," and he had acted like I had given him a compliment, and it really was. That's great. I've always thought the mark of a good education isn't teaching people things, it's teaching people how to find things out. Not a teacher, but in my 5th grade math class, when my teacher called my name on the first day of school, she paused, lowered her glasses and asked, "Are you my uncle's name's son?" I said no. And she gave a huge sigh of relief and said, "Oh, thank God." This was over 20 years after she had my uncle as a student. I told my dad about that later that day, and he laughed and said my uncle was quite a terror in elementary school. Off topic a bit, but I went to the same grade school as my uncle did. He was 17 when I was born. I got my notice that my 3rd grade teacher would be Mrs. B. My uncle had her and convinced me she was mean and beat the students so much that she was called B the Beater. I was terrified. She was the sweetest teacher ever. And of course 8-year-old me told her what my uncle said and she laughed. Full name edited to protect others. I had the exact opposite experience. When I was in 4th class, which I think is 4th or 5th grade, I don't know, I was 10, I had a teacher who had taught my aunt some 25 years before. "You'll love her," she told me, as this teacher had been her favorite in primary school. This woman made my life hell all year. She just did not like me for whatever reason. I'm still salty about that teacher's treatment of me and others in my class nearly 15 years later. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.